Still on business news, President Bola Tinubu has signed a new executive order directing that all government earnings from oil and gas operations be paid straight into the Federation account. The order removes several layers of deductions previously applied to oil proceeds. Ulomoye Machi has more.
For years, Nigeria's oil money has taken a slopey path before reaching government accounts, slowed by layers of deductions and overlapping charges. Under the new directive, proceeds from royalty oil, tax oil, profit oil and gas will now be paid directly into the Federation account, cutting out what the President describes as structural distortions in the sector. The statement signed by President Tinubu's Special Assistant on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, also notes that the President will also undertake a comprehensive review of the Petroleum Industry Act in consultation with relevant stakeholders to address identified fiscal and structural anomalies. However, an energy policy expert has countered the President's directive, arguing that the PIA is based on many considerations and frameworks.
You don't amend a Petroleum Industry Act by others. It counteracts the principle of fairness, of equity and predictability. Everybody that invests takes a long-term view to planning. If you wake up in the morning and because you have revenue challenges and you want to correct some errors and you do it in the wrong manner, then you send the wrong signals to the oil investors as well. Now, the oil and gas still suffers a lot of issues. Yeah, so you want to make NNPCL more efficient, you want to remove their ease of access to federal money and others, but then do it properly. Do it within a framework, do it within the existing laws, because the PIA is based on many considerations and many frameworks. Taking a small part of it and being honest, anybody who has a strong local standing can challenge this in court and will win. There's nothing, executive orders don't counteract the power of legislation. And this is something that's consistent with this government. This lack of synergy, lack of patience, and lack of doing things properly.
The presidency maintains that the order aligns with revenue flows with constitutional provisions and will improve accountability across the oil and gas sector. An implementation committee has also been approved to oversee compliance with a broader review of the Petroleum Industry Act. With the order now in effect, oil revenues will no longer take detours before reaching government accounts, a step aimed at ensuring funds go directly to the Treasury and improving transparency in oil earnings. Ulomoye Machi, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's bring in energy expert Ayodele Oni for more on this. Mr. Oni, what is the reaction to the President's executive order? Right on time, long overdue, or how do you describe it?
Interesting argument, constitutional argument. But outside of that, if you take certain statistics, for example, since 2023, about 2 trillion has moved, instead of moving to the Federation account, hasn't gone into the Federation account because of the Frontier Exploration Fund, the Section 64, Section 9, around 30% management fund, management fee, 30% of PSC profit oil, tax oil, royalty oil going to the NNPCL, and about 600 million of funds which would have been spent, $1 million, which would have been spent for infrastructural development, to haven't gone into that fund. If you look at also, haven't gone to the Federation account. If you also look at the issues around the midstream and downstream gas infrastructure fund, getting the environmental remediation fund for relating to flaring, you'd find out that the PIA already creates an environmental remediation fund for the same purpose. So that's duplicity, right? You see a number of challenges. I understand the constitutional debate, and I do believe that the legislature needs to very quickly support this with an amendment to the Petroleum Industry Act. I think it's a good policy overall, provided when those funds are then disbursed, state governments do what they ought to do with the funds.
All right, and what do you think that the NNPCL must necessarily do now for more efficient handling of the nation's oil and gas assets?
That portfolio rationalization may be critical, ensuring that the NNPC always does put its best foot forward ensuring that there's transparency. I think those are critical points. I think the guys at the top are amongst the best in the industry in terms of competence and capacity. But we then need to see this in action in terms of the results we get. Taking away some of these powers, and in relation to PSCs in particular, NNPCL seems to play the role of a pseudo regulator. And if you do separation of functions, which is a model many countries have tried to borrow from a place like Norway, where you have regulatory function completely separate from commercial functions, like having a Petrobras internationally and the Malaysian National Oil Company, Saudi Aramco, and a number of companies that go internationally and compete commercially with other juniors, international oil companies. That's the idea, and that's what the NNPCL should be seeking to do. And I think removing some of these would make them appreciate that maybe there isn't free money anymore, and a lot needs to be done. All right,
Mr. Oni, energy expert Ayodele Oni, thank you for your time on TVC News at 7. At 10. Thank you very much, Mr. Oni. While you're watching TVC News at 10, let's take a moment. When we return, it will be time for sports news. Stay with us.